Welcome to World News. This is Jyoti. Let's dive into the details. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy announced that Ukraine has formally proposed a new round of peace negotiations with Russia to be held next week. The offer was conveyed by Russian Umerov, Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council, who previously led talks in Istanbul. Zelenskyy emphasized the urgency of resuming dialogue, stating everything should be done to achieve a ceasefire, and reiterated his readiness for a leadership-level meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. He accused Moscow of hiding from decisions and stressed the need to intensify the pace of negotiations.
Триває розмова з російською стороною щодо обмінів. Продовжуємо виконувати домовленості минулої зустрічі в Стамбулі. Зараз команда працює ще над одним обміном. Також секретар РНБО Умєров доповів, що запропонував російській стороні наступну зустріч на наступному тижні. Переговорну динаміку треба збільшувати. Треба робити все, щоб досягти припинення вогню. І російській стороні треба перестати ховатись від рішень. Обмін полонених, повернення дітей, припинення вбивств. І потрібна зустріч на рівні лідерів, щоб реально забезпечити мир. Дійсно, тривалий. Україна готова. Триває розмова з російською стороною щодо обмінів. Продовжуємо виконувати домовленості минулої зустрічі в Стамбулі. Зараз команда працює ще над одним обміном. Також секретар РНБО Умєров доповів, що запропонував російській стороні наступну зустріч на наступному тижні. Переговорну динаміку треба збільшувати. Треба робити все, щоб досягти припинення вогню. І російській стороні треба перестати ховатись від рішень. Обмін полонених, повернення дітей, припинення вбивств. І потрібна зустріч на рівні лідерів, щоб реально забезпечити мир. Дійсно.
South Korea is reeling from 5 days of relentless downpours that triggered deadly landslides and flash floods across central and southern regions. As of Sunday, 14 people have died and 12 remain missing, with the hardest hit areas including Sancheong County and Gapyeong. The Hong Kong Observatory issued Hurricane Signal number 10, its most severe warning, on Sunday morning as Typhoon Wifa swept dangerously close to the city. The sustained winds reaching 140 km per hour, the eye of the storm passed just 50 km south of Hong Kong around midday. Syria's Minister of Information confirmed that a 48-hour ceasefire between Sunni Bedouin tribes and the Druze-linked militants in Syria province has begun, marking the first phase of a fragile truce aimed at halting sectarian violence that has claimed over 900 lives in just 1 week. Interim President Ahmad al-Shara called on Bedouin tribes to fully commit to the ceasefire and warned against further escalation, stating that the clashes had pushed Syria into a perilous phase. The violence, which erupted from tit-for-tat kidnappings and retaliatory attacks, drew in government forces and triggered Israeli airstrikes targeting Syrian military positions.
سوريا لضمان فض الاشتباك القائم ومنع تجدده في المستقبل وإعطاء فرصة للحلول السياسية تحت مظلة الدولة.
احنا كل واحد ويا الدولة السورية هو أخونا وصاحبنا وحبيبنا، بس احنا هدفنا الهجري، القتل الأطفال وقتل النساء وقتل الشياب، وما خلى حدا من البدو إلا ما قتلهم وحرقهم، والأسير لا يقتل، هو قتل الأسرة. وإحنا جينا نبينا النداء من الجزيرة ومن أبناء قبيلة الموالي، نبينا النداء وجينا اليوم على سويدة.
ومنعا لانزلاق الأوضاع نحو احتراب دائم، جرى الإعلان عن وقف لإطلاق النار يتضمن تفاهمات توافق عليها الوسطاء مع الدولة السورية لضمان فض الاشتباك القائم ومنع تجدده في المستقبل وإعطاء فرصة للحلول السياسية تحت مظلة الدولة.
احنا كل واحد ويا الدولة السورية هو أخونا وصاحبنا وحبيبنا، بس احنا هدفنا الهجري، القتل الأطفال وقتل النساء وقتل الشياب، وما خلى حدا من البدو إلا ما قتلهم وحرقهم، والأسير لا يقتل، هو قتل الأسرة. وإحنا جينا نبينا النداء من الجزيرة ومن أبناء قبيلة الموالي، نبينا النداء وجينا اليوم على سويدة.
1 week after violent clashes between Sunni Bedouin tribes and the Druze-linked militias devastated Syria in southern Syria, the Syrian Red Crescent dispatched humanitarian convoys on Sunday along the Damascus-Dara highway to deliver critical aid to besieged villages. The move follows a US brokered ceasefire and the withdrawal of Bedouin fighters from Syria city, which had seen over 900 deaths and mass displacement. Interim President Ahmad al-Shara urged all factions to honor the truce and allow humanitarian access. Democratic Arizona Governor Kate Hobbs survived the catastrophic damage caused by the Dragon River fire along the Grand Canyon's north rim on Saturday, describing the scene as devastating. Flying over the shade landscape in a Black Hawk helicopter, Hobbs observed skeletal remains of the historic Grand Canyon Lodge, scorched trees and lingering smoke.
Fancy, so a lot of the contractors take on that burden of the maintenance, the liabilities, and
Thank you.
so these folks are what make the dream come true for the rest of us. So they work long hours, long shifts. Yeah, you know, and fancy, so a lot of the contractors take on that burden of the maintenance, the liabilities, and
In a symbolic move to reassure the public, Japan delivered slightly radioactive but decontaminated soil from Fukushima to the Prime Minister's office in Tokyo on Saturday. The soil collected as part of a massive cleanup following the 2011 nuclear disaster will be reused in flower beds as the government complex officials say the radiation levels in the soil are equivalent to a lower than a single annual X-ray exposure for someone working directly with it. To further mitigate risk, the contaminated earth will be covered with 20 centimeters of regular soil. British police arrested more than 100 demonstrators across London, Manchester, Edinburgh, Bristol, Londonderry and Truro on Saturday as protests erupted for the third consecutive weekend against the government's decision to proscribe Palestine Action as a terrorist organization. The UK government banned Palestine Action after activists allegedly caused €7 million in damage to military aircraft at RAF Bridge Norton during a protest against British support for Israel. Critics argued the move suppresses civil disobedience and freedom of expression, while supporters of the ban cite national security concerns.
Bring around the way. Amazing, thank you. Well done. Occupation now! We want justice, you say how? End the occupation now! Shut up!
Clear the road. You're in an active caravane. The vehicle's moving.
Guys,
Clear the
move back,
road.
please.
Clear the road.
I allow this genocide. I condemn genocide.
Thank you.
Tens of thousands of demonstrators flooded the streets of Tbilisi on Saturday, intensifying calls for new parliamentary elections amid growing outrage over the ruling Georgian Dream Party's decision to suspend Georgia's bid to join the European Union. The protests, now entering their 9th month, stem from the October 2024 elections, which international observers and the European Parliament have condemned as fraudulent and undemocratic. Protesters waved Georgian and Euro flags, demanding a return to democratic norms and alignment with Europe.
We truly believe that we are the part of the European society. We truly believe that we are the part of the European society.
Thousands of demonstrators gathered at Hostage Square in Tel Aviv on Saturday for their weekly rally, intensifying calls for a comprehensive ceasefire in Gaza and the return of remaining hostages held by Hamas. The crowd later marched to the U.S. Embassy branch, urging American officials to pressure both sides toward a breakthrough in the stalled negotiations. The protests come amid ongoing ceasefire talks in Doha, where Israeli and Hamas negotiators are discussing a U.S.-backed proposal for a 60-day truce that would include the release of 10 hostages and the remains of 18 others. However, international mediators say progress has been slow, with no definitive agreement reached.
להצטרף מאחורי משפחות החטופים. בבקשה, תשתפו פעולה ולא להפריע למשפחות לצעוד, בבקשה מכם. ציבור יקר, תודה שאתם מצטרפים אלינו. Stop the war, bring them home. להצטרף מאחורי משפחות החטופים. בבקשה, תשתפו פעולה ולא להפריע למשפחות לצעוד, בבקשה מכם. ציבור יקר, תודה שאתם מצטרפים אלינו. Stop the war, bring them.
Hundreds of thousands of supporters of Bangladesh's largest Islamist party rallied in the capital on Saturday to show their strength ahead of elections expected next year as the South Asian nation stands at a crossroads after the ouster of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Ahead of the march, Jamaat-e-Islami said it aimed to mobilize 1 million people.
ব্যবস্থায় নতুন বাংলাদেশ গড়ে তোলা হবে ইনশাআল্লাহ শিশু কিশোর যুবক মা বোন শ্রমিক ছাত্র জনতা ব্যবসায়ী সবাইকে যেই দেশ যেই সংবিধান যেই রাষ্ট্র নিরাপত্তা দিতে পারবে সেই নতুন বাংলাদেশ আমরা গড়ে তুলতে চাই ব্যবস্থায় নতুন বাংলাদেশ গড়ে তোলা হবে ইনশাআল্লাহ শিশু কিশোর যুবক মা বোন শ্রমিক ছাত্র জনতা ব্যবসায়ী সবাইকে যেই দেশ যেই সংবিধান
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro hailed a major diplomatic breakthrough on Friday, celebrating the return of 252 Venezuelan migrants who had been deported from the U.S. and imprisoned in El Salvador CVR mega prison. The exchange was part of a high-stakes deal that saw Venezuela release 10 jailed Americans, including potential detainees and U.S. Navy SEAL. Explosions and thick plumes of smoke were seen rising across Gaza Strip on Saturday as the Israel Defense Forces IDF ramped up their military campaign against Hamas. The strikes light up the night sky in fury burst with multiple blasts reported in central and northern Gaza, including the Zabalia refugee camp. The 3 Israeli soldiers were killed earlier this week in a tank explosion. Vietnamese authorities have towed the Wonder Sea tourist boat to a shipyard for forensic examination following Saturday's catastrophic capsizing in Ha Long Bay, which claimed at least 38 lives. The vessel, carrying 53 people, including over 20 children, was hit by a sudden thunderstorm around 1:30 p.m. local time, causing it to overturn near Tai Top Island. The tragedy has sparked national mourning and renewed scrutiny of maritime safety in one of Vietnam's most iconic tourist destinations. Rescue operations continue for the 5 people still missing, while families of victims are receiving financial and logistical support from the government and local businesses.
Cứ gọi đi xong chưa? Xong rồi cho mình gọi điện thoại nhé.
That's the wrap of the world news. For more updates, stay tuned to CVR News English.